We're going to transition to our main topic.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and super excited to continue with our Black Brilliance Conversation series where we interview movers and shakers all over the map in different industries. Super excited about today's conversation. We haven't really had a conversation about Blacks in tech. We've talked about entrepreneurs. We've talked about the importance of supporting community. We've talked about a number of different things. But today we get to have a really, really special conversation. And I'm privileged because I feel like I'm talking to I don't want to use this term like I was going to say the Black Mark Zuckerberg, but that. I'm talking to somebody who's just really, really the new wave in so many different ways that you're going to learn why. Isaac Hayes III is in the building, y'all. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Appreciate you, man. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate the intro and the applause. I appreciate
Absolutely, absolutely, bro. So it's funny. I gotta tell you a story that you don't know yet. At least you might not know it. Funny story. We're connected in a way that I had to learn about that you wouldn't know.
Okay.
Your father and my mother not Catholic. For anybody who's listening, chill out, bro. For anybody who's watching, listen, chill out. Your father and my mother played in a band together at Manassas High School in Memphis, Tennessee under Mr. Abel.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so your mom, my mom doesn't even know I'm doing this interview. I'm gonna let her know later on. But my mom would tell me stories because when your pops was in high school, he was playing in nightclubs in Memphis and would then come to school in high school, like playing a band, like after having been out all night at nightclubs. And so my mom would tell me these stories and you know, I had no idea we would be having this conversation years later, but it was like this larger than life figure. She was like, yeah, that was Isaac. And I was like, really?
I think that's dope. I love hearing stories like that because it reinforces my father's work ethic. Like, let me tell you something, like talking about a person, I get that from him.
Word.
So like, at my mom too, like very hard worker. So like, I understand like my energy to continue to work on the things that I work on. I get that from him for sure.
So let's talk about the area that you're in.
Yeah.
Fan base, brother. You are really on the precipice of something huge. I am now a member of fan base. I need to holler at, is there somebody who I could talk to about getting verified? Like I'm already an MSNBC contributor. Like I'm outside like a little bit. Yeah, I'm verified on Twitter and Facebook. I just need, is there somebody I could talk to?
I know a couple people that work at fan base. I think
all right. We'll talk offline and figure that out. Would love to hear your formal description of it as its creator and somebody who, you know, really had a vision. I want to hear like, how do you explain fan base?
Well, yeah, fan base is all of that, but specifically it is a social media platform that allows any user to monetize their content via subscription and virtual currency that we call love. There's two ways you make money on fan base. You make money from subscriptions and you make money from people loving your content as well. You can like it for free and you can love it. You can also post anything for free. So it's a free platform, free to post, free to download, free to use. But if you want to take content and make it exclusive to some people that can see, and you can do that on Fanbase and they have to subscribe to you to see that. That may sound familiar because Instagram has started doing subscriptions and Twitter Blue is a subscription platform and Snapchat Plus and TikTok.
And OnlyFans.
Man, and OnlyFans.
That's where I started thinking. I started thinking of OnlyFans, honestly.
Well, there's a big difference between like two platforms. Like Patreon and OnlyFans are entirely different than Fanbase for one reason. Neither one of those are social networks. They're not social networks where people go and they actually build community. Once you go to OnlyFans, you're there to see the specific person you're there to see, and then you pay for that content, and there's nothing left to do the same with Patreon. Another distinction that I think we should make, we have to change the glossary, the definition of what a user or a content creator is in the realm of social media. Every single person on social media is a content creator. They're to varying degrees, but we are all contributing to this mass volume of content that gets churned through an advertising machine and monetize to the benefit of the platform. So whether you post a photo once a year or you post 100 times a day, you are a content creator, right? If you put no thought, if you just take a picture of yourself outside, it's a selfie, or you spend 30 minutes making this really crazy skit, they're going to run ads in between all of it regardless. So we are all contributing to content. So I look at the content creators as all users. So I just say users, fan bases for any single user on social media.
I like that. This is very fascinating to me because it's not my space at all. I use social media, but
It wasn't mine.
right. And I want to talk to you about that a little bit. But I do have a question. Different social media algorithms are, that when you talk about social media, people like to talk about the algorithm a lot. They like to talk about how the sites run. And in today's space, because of the balance of ad revenue and people who buy ads and things of that nature, algorithms are designed to, get your content out, but not necessarily in a way that decentralizes people who would buy ads and spend that type of money. How does Fanbase draw the balance in terms of like, I got to have paid advertisers, which I understand, but I also want people to be able to see the content that they put out?
Well, the biggest difference is we don't run ads. We're not ad based.
Okay.
And so that's more importantly, you don't see ads on Fanbase. And to be a little more technical, like every piece of content that is on social media is run through some sort of moderation AI. It can detect words, shapes, sounds. So the things you say in the video, it can read text. It can look at objects to say this is something that might be pornographic.
Right.
So all of that stuff is run through this engine. For the purposes of advertising, one, anything with text on social media is going to usually get suppressed. It's going to get squished down because people are going to treat it like an ad. And so everybody on social media has their content suppressed. You, me, doesn't matter. The Rock, Beyonce, the content creators that are doing amazing dances on these platforms. And the reason is because once advertising became part of social media, the companies had to find a way to make money and not allow you to make money. So the simple question I ask you is, Charles, like why would they let you reach 1 million people if they're about to charge Walmart and Target to reach 1 million people? Doesn't make sense. If you could reach 1 million people, Walmart would just come to you and hand you the check and use your page as the outlet to run ads on and not pay Instagram to run ads. So therefore, they have to suppress your content so you get some visibility by people that engage your content or follow you the most or like your content the most, but no one ever sees all of your content. If that's the case, someone like Kim Kardashian with over 300 million followers could charge probably $21 million every time she posted anything on her page, because a 30-second Super Bowl ad is $7 million and 100 people watch the Super Bowl one day a year for 4 hours a day. But imagine having access to 300 million people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The ad value of that is astronomical. So I wanted to eliminate that. I want people, because when you look at monetization, I look at it as everybody that follows you is not a fan of yours. So people follow you passively, right? And it's like 95% of people. 95% of people that follow you like a magazine at the checkout aisle. Like, oh, what's going on today? What's Charles got going on? Cool. All right, he's doing this, he's doing that. Boom. Or they're nosy or they're haters, right?
What?
The other 5% is your fan base. If you monetize that through subscription, there is millions, thousands, millions, billions of dollars to be made, depending on the varying level of engagement that you get on your content. And so we don't run ads. We are a rev share model that allows people to subscribe to you for $4.99, and you wind up taking on half of that revenue. So $2.50 a subscriber, which is pretty much on par with what Twitch does with their subscription model and YouTube. So imagine if you have 5,000 people that pay you $2.50 a month. That's $12,500 a month. That's $150,000 a year, and that's more than 96% of Americans make. So the future is definitely subscriber based. Fanbase was just the first platform. We are the absolute first platform that allowed a user to subscribe to another user via an in-app purchase. So anytime you can just pick up a phone, click a couple buttons and subscribe to somebody, Fanbase did that first. So what you see Twitter doing and Instagram doing, they got that directly from us.
You know, there's so much that you just said that's really fascinating. I have conversations with people all the time, and I'm glad that I'm a part of this discussion because it's going to allow me to inform other folks that much sooner. The Kardashian example that you gave is great. Like whether it's her, Beyonce, Ellen, if you have 300 million subscribers on, let's say, IG, you almost control or have access to a third of all of their users. That's a lot of people. So the numbers that you just broke down are crazy to me in terms of understanding what that is and how it works. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about a couple of things. One of the things that makes you unique is that you own the whole infrastructure, like all of it, in terms of around Fanbase. Can you talk a little bit about how significant that is in terms of other sites, other platforms, how it's structured, and what that allows you to do as a Black man in this space, like how unique it is that you own the entire infrastructure? Like, can you explain to our audience how significant that is and what a difference it is between other platforms?
Well, most importantly, there's really nobody in the space that's Black that's created a social media platform like this. And I think the initial challenge is coming over the bias of being Black. And it just, unfortunately for Black people, things built by Black people are perceived to be only for Black people. Whereas things built by white people are perceived to be built for all people. And so we have to reinforce that Fanbase is a platform that is in 180 countries. It's on iOS and Android. It's a global app for people to use. And so infrastructure-wise, the fact that there's someone at the helm of a company that can dictate culture and monetization in a way that benefits the community that contributes to the monetization of these platforms, which is the Black community, which is Black Twitter and all the kids on TikTok and everybody doing all the skits on Instagram. They are the economic engine of these platforms because they bring the eyeballs, which bring the views, which bring the ads, which bring the revenue. So typically what happens is on platforms like TikTok, TikTok's overall goal and Instagram's overall goal is to serve a wide audience of ads. So it would behoove them to have famous white people rather than famous Black people. Because a famous white person, you can run an ad and it's perceived for everybody, right? As opposed to someone Black, it might not get the same engagement. So what happens is Black creators create a trend, a dance like the Cuff It Challenge or something like that, and then it gets duplicated by other people, white people that matter, which is fine. That is fine, because that is kind of the air and the energy of a TikTok, right? It's like you do the dance, I do the dance. You do the challenge, I do the challenge. The problem is that the platform boosts the visibility of not the original creator, but the duplicator, so that they get more views, which they make more ads. And so you've got some young kid that created a challenge that might get 3 million views on their original challenge, and then someone that duplicates it like Charlie D'Amelio or Addison Rae that gets 300 million views. And then now brands come and give her tons and tons of money for her reach because the algorithm is giving her the reach because they're able to make more money off of her. And then she's able to capitalize on that reach to actually go ahead and make money from other companies.
Obviously, a huge amount of conversation exists in the space around free speech.
Yeah.
Or I don't even say free speech because I'm a lawyer. I know better. It's not a conversation about free speech. It's more about a conversation about accepted speech. Yeah. In addition to a larger conversation, as somebody who used social media and is in the space of civil rights, I know that the way in which social media filters out certain things that are germane to our community, particularly as it relates to speaking out on police violence, speaking out on issues affecting our culture, speaking out on a number of different things and topics related to race, be they political, community-based, or otherwise. There's a lot of like conflict about where we feel social media should be and what its responsibility should be. You are in the space of owning your own infrastructure and being privately owned. How do you navigate that, being that you are a Black man? This is not a platform exclusively for Black people.
Yeah.
Do you feel any additional pressure around that? Like, where do you draw the line there in that space, and how do you navigate it?
I mean, listen, I feel the pressure from both sides. And what I mean is I feel the pressure from some people in the Black community that look at fan base and say, oh, I can go on here and say anti-Semitic stuff. I can go on here and really talk crazy about the white community, right? And I'm like, fam, that's not what it's about over here, right? It's just, I'm Black and I want you to have the ability to say what you want to say. I have no problem with anybody ever disagreeing with what someone has to say. It's the way in which you use your responses. It's the way in which you do it. You don't have to call people names. You don't have to use racial slurs or homophobic language. If you disagree with a certain person's lifestyle or existence or whatever, that is your right to do so. I think it may affect you more than it'll affect me because you got to go to work tomorrow. Like, you got to work at the company that you work at. And that's where free speech becomes the issue for people. Is like, free speech is free outside on the street, but free speech is not free if you work at Coca-Cola or Apple. Because you can't work for those companies when you do that. So it's a tough space to navigate, but we haven't faced as many challenges. But as we continue to grow, because the more the community grows, because white people come on fan base, right? And then some people try to make white people feel uncomfortable, and I'm like, we can't have that. Like, how does the platform grow if you're trying to alienate everybody? When, like, why would I have fan base in the UK and Ireland and Scotland if I didn't want those people to be on the platform and utilize fan base for the way it's intended for all users? So those challenges will continue to be there, and we'll deal with them as they come along.
And I think a lot of people feel like, as additional efforts have been made to quell our voices in places, we want somewhere we can go that we can trust that isn't going to do that. Right. I think that, and I think with you being a brother, people are like, oh, this is it. This is our place. I think that it's okay to have a space that allows us to do that, but you don't necessarily, and we don't necessarily need a space where you got, like, having our space does not mean or shouldn't mean or doesn't have to mean that it's a space to shit on other people. The proverbial cookout, like when I go to an actual cookout, we spend time hanging out and talking to each other and enjoying each other. Like, we don't spend time talking about, like, oh, white people did blah, 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 blah. We don't, like, at the cookout, right? So online doesn't have to be anything different in that respect. We could just have our space, proverbially speaking, and it be that.
I think one thing that social media has taught me is that it's deeper than that. We're binary people. Like, human beings are binary in the sense of saying there has to be someone that disagrees with you. There has to be something that forces that pull in the opposite direction 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I think there's a large group of people that want to share a thought or an idea and want the entire mass of people to agree with them. And that will never happen because that's not how human beings work. Choice is the thing. We are so different, unique. It doesn't matter about race. It doesn't matter about religion. It doesn't matter about sexual orientation. Like, even in our own community, we are divided amongst our own community. There's some people that are mad at Deion Sanders and other people that are cool with Deion Sanders and what he did. So it's just, social media is taught me the psychology of human beings everybody has to have a choice to decide how they feel. And a rule for anybody that's listening, I say this all the time. I never, and I didn't used to do this, but it's probably been over a decade, I never post anything on social media that I would not say out loud. I don't post my thoughts. I would only post words that I would say to somebody if I saw them. So if someone's in their head like, man, I wish I could throw my boss off a bridge. Like, I'm not. People say that kind of stuff, or they'll post their thoughts.
Bro, I'm a lawyer. You know how many times I've used somebody's social media posts against them, either at trial or as part of a case, because they said some wild shit on social media, and I was like, oh, word?
Right.
And you just get it, and it's there. Like, it happens all the time. For us, how do you normalize it so that people understand, like, yo, I'm Charles Coleman. I talk civil rights. I'm in my civil rights bag. I'm talking civil rights, and I give a certain number of lectures or conversations or what have you on this app. But you gotta pay for it.
Yeah.
Like it's not a Facebook Live. It's not an IG Live. It's something that you only have access to if you pay for it. How do you make that just a normal part of our psyche or our ins and outs? Or is it just like either you gonna get on the wave of the future or you're not?
So two things. One, it already exists now and people do it. It's just younger people and predominantly white people. And so I know creators on Patreon that are making $230,000 a month, right? Think about that, like 230 grand a month off subscription.
I'm clear.
You know, but they're white, right? The difference is two things. Quick story. The reason that I built Fanbase was when I first thought of the idea, I asked a friend of mine who was in her 30s, hey, like I'm about to make this app where you can people subscribe to other people. And she's like, I'm not subscribing to no person.
Right.
Like that was her initial thought. So I'm thinking about it. I went to the Apple store here in Atlanta and I saw one of the employees, young girl. I think she was like 21. I said, hey, let me ask you a question. What's your favorite band? What's your favorite artist? And I thought she was going to say somebody like Ariana Grande or somebody really popular. And she said, some Latino band. I never heard the name before. Any band. I said, let me ask you a question. If you could subscribe to them for $4.99 a month and they would post like small clips of them working on their album, you know, behind the scenes stuff that everybody can get. And then maybe every now and then they might shoot you an opportunity to buy tickets or merch that no one else can buy. Would you do that? And her little answer was, fuck yeah, it's only $4.99, and walked off. Like, I was like, I got to build this. And so Fanbase is not a platform that is built for me or you. It is really a platform that's built for everybody, but the inheritors, the people that will assume control and influence on that platform are the Centennial Generation Alpha generation, because they understand that in-app purchase technology. They understand, like, I play Call of Duty. They don't think everything is virtual to them. My brother's 17, 16 years old. He doesn't really understand paper money. He understands the ones and zeros that are on the app on his phone that allow him that are connected to a debit card that allow him to go swipe, and that's what he knows. The convenience of that. My thing is, it's about every social media platform, in my opinion, has a lifespan. It will live and it will die. That means MySpace is dead. Facebook is a senior citizen. Instagram is a middle-aged adult. Snapchat is a millennial. TikTok is a centennial. And Fanbase is going to be for Generation Alpha. And every social media platform is made relevant by the generation that use them. And then they become less relevant because, like happened on Facebook, my mama got on Facebook and I left Facebook. I'm like, I'm out of here. My mama's here. So, you know, kids want to be on apps that their parents are not on. And so as long as that exists, kids will flock to spaces where they can get away from their parents, talk about movies and music and sex and life and things that they wouldn't say around anybody else, and feel comfortable doing so without their aunt or their grandmother saying, what are you doing? When it comes to the Black community, we are taught to give away our content before we ask to be paid for it. The white community puts a value on content the moment that they create their content.
That's even like...
There's no mixtape version of social media for white people. There were no pop mix CDs. There were no country mixtapes. It was like, here's the product, buy it or don't buy it.
Fanbase, I love it. That's using your Fanbase. It's, you know, that is Black brilliance. That's what we're talking about. This is a Black brilliance conversation. Talk to me about where you guys are, because a lot of people may not realize this. We're very fortunate to have you as a part of this conversation, given the timing, because you're really making it work. And your fundraising cycle, in terms of the realm where you are, you're busy. Right. You're busy and you're in demand and you make it around. So I really want to tell you, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. But can you just explain what that means? Because a lot of people don't know. We've heard about, you know, I think round A, your angel fund, all of this.
Yeah.
So talk about where you are and what your goals are and how that works.
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. because I've had a very successful career licensing my music, I was able to fund Fanbase with my own money, spend $200,000 of my own money building it. So then when it came time to raise money, COVID hit. And I'd had one conversation with a VC, and the conversation made me feel like I was back in the music business. The VC was very cocky. We don't really need you. And, if you get something going, what are your numbers like? Blase, blah, 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 right? And I said, oh, this reminds me of an artist that has no buzz. And you just walk to the record company and they give you that standard record deal that you wind up saying you got screwed over like 10 years later when I signed for 5 albums and for $50,000 and they own my masters and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wait a minute. So a friend of mine suggested equity crowdfunding. And equity crowdfunding is an entirely different avenue where people can fund their businesses through the general public investing in their startups, thanks to Barack Obama and Joe Biden with the Jobs Act. And so people don't understand accredited investors. It's really a scammy, kind of way of saying, we want rich people to have access to invest in early stage companies before anybody else. And that rule has been in effect since 1933. So it doesn't matter if you were white or black. It was right after the Depression. It's just wealthy individuals said that if you don't make $200,000 a year for 2 consecutive years or have a net worth of $1 million minus your house, you can't invest in Microsoft or Apple or Google. You're locked out. It's illegal for you to do so. I read about a guy named Orrin Michaels. He put $5,000 into Uber in 2010. When the company went public in 2019, his $5,000 was turned into $24 million. Wait, so you're telling me in 9 years, he took 5 G's and it turned into $24 million. And the only reason he got that shot and I didn't is because he was already really rich? I said, that's some bullshit. So you don't have to be accredited to go to Vegas and gamble $5,000 away. You don't have to be accredited to go buy $5,000 worth of lottery tickets. So why can't I bet on Apple? Why can't I bet on Uber? Why can't I bet on these companies? So the Jobs Act allows you to do that. So Fanbase, we have raised over $7 million in equity crowdfunding where the general public, anybody, can invest and actually sit on the cap table and own shares in Fanbase for the minimum of $245 up to the maximum of $100,000. So I've done 3 raises. The first raise I raised $3.4 million. The second raise, I raised $2.6 million, and I'm in a final raise right now. This is the last time I'm doing this. I'm raising $2.5 million one more time on Start Engine as a Reg CF campaign to allow anybody to invest, and we've already raised $1.7 million. So I'm about to reach the end of this. So I tell anybody that wants to invest,
y'all know what he's saying. What he's saying is, yo, this train is out the gate,
right?
And it's pulling into the next station, and after that, all tickets is off. So if you really got a little bread you want to throw it around.
Yeah. I tell people, if you want to invest in Fanbase, go to startengine.com/fanbase. And that is exactly where you can invest. The process is pretty simple. It's very straightforward. And, like I said, the minimum is $245. That's the price of a pair of J's or a steak dinner or, some really nice, clothes or whatever it is. You might go spend that at alcohol and drinks at night.
Blow that in the night.
Yeah. So let me
go
put
New York, you live in Atlanta. We'll blow that in the night.
Right. Let me go put $245 on some stock on this startup. And if this thing becomes a super unicorn, and when it becomes the next Facebook, that Facebook that at one point had a market cap of $900 billion, that is ridiculous. But think about that, or even $100 billion company, that's still a $2,500 X return on an investment, right? Which is crazy because most investors look for 3-4 times X. But I know the value of what Fanbase can be, so I encourage everybody to invest because here's the thing, it's literally the biggest legal flip of all time. And what I mean by that is, I tell people, what directly affects the value of a social media startup? The users. If everybody left Instagram, it'd be worth $0 and 0 cents. Clubhouse, $0 and 0 cents, right? So what if we all bought shares in a startup and then we all went there and used it? Then the value of the startup goes up. And now we're legally inflating the value of our own stock by simply moving over to the platform.
Listen, brother, this has been an amazing conversation. We could probably talk for a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to get into. I mean, I didn't even get into the fun stuff. This was the fun stuff. I didn't even get into like, you know, the transition that you made from music to tech.
Yeah.
I'm a I'm a geek at heart, so Aqua Teen Hunger Force is my shit. Like it's a lot of layers to stuff that we can talk about, and I'm hoping that this is gonna be the first time we talk. I would love to have you on my Talk Back Tuesdays. I've seen you check in once or twice.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you for that. But this has been an amazing discussion, and I encourage people to follow you. I encourage people to fuck with fan base, to get on, to really like make the shift. And here's another thing that I'm gonna say really quickly before I wrap up. One of the things that drives me crazy is that we wait for somebody else to tell us our shit is hot before we get on it.
Yep.
Go fuck with fan base now because it's hot, as opposed to waiting for someone who's looking at our culture from the outside to tell us what we should already know, being on the inside, and then we say, oh, okay, now I'm going to go over here because they said it was hot. It's hot now. Get on it now. Mess with it now.
Yeah.
I really want to say that. I really want to thank you again for joining us. This has been an amazing conversation, our Black Brilliance series as part of the Charles Coleman podcast. We've had Isaac Hayes III, ladies and gentlemen, a.k.a. Ike Dirty. My man has been on with us. Appreciate you. Look forward to talking in the soon. Congratulations for everything you're doing. Thank you for everything you're doing. And we'll check you out soon.
Yeah. Startengine.com/fanbase. If you want to invest, that's where you go. And I encourage everybody to invest. We're about to close this round, and once it's over, it's over. So like 10 years from now, you'll be like, I could have invested in Fanbase.
I could have got on, man.
Now everybody's got phantoms, but me, jet skis. People are rich. They walk around here with, Sharpays and like living in these amazing mansions because they're fan base investors and their stock matured and they got $24 million and $35 million and $150. I'm like, yeah, that was the goal.
That was what it was, bro.